Hello everyone, Assalamu alaikum. Welcome to Texte's another podcast. Today we have a very special guest with us. She is Amal. She is from Saudi Arabia and she is the CEO of Global Entrepreneurship Network Saudi, and as well as she is an angel investor. By the way, Amal, I welcome you wholeheartedly to the podcast. Thank you so much for sparing out time from your busy schedule for the podcast. So can you please introduce yourself?
Sure. Thank you so much for hosting me. It's a pleasure. And basically, I work as the CEO of the Global Entrepreneurship Network, the Saudi chapter. And prior to that, I was managing director for Babson Global Center, which is known to be one of the best colleges that teaches entrepreneurship in the world. And prior to that, I used to manage startup accelerators at King Abdullah University of Science and Technology. And I work a lot on innovation projects within large corporations and some of the government sectors. And I've been pretty much doing a lot of training, for startups around the region and in Africa as well. And I'm an angel investor as well, still learning. Still developing. So I hope to see the startups that I'm working with, growing better and bigger every day.
Well, that's really great. I think the thing which you are doing, you are among the change maker community. You are also helping startups as well as you are investing in different startups as an angel investor. By the way, what you think? What is that one thing which keeps your passion alive? So because it's not an easy thing to do what you are doing right now.
Yeah. Well, I am impacting change and seeing how people can move from one status to another is really one of the biggest driver. And my initial and early career, started with education. So I've been working for the past 21 years. And
Wow.
I think I realized, so it's been really since 1999, I was really in the education sector. And I realized that people can change and can pull their life from a place to another just by getting really good education and good people that they can be inspired with. So if someone that you really believe in and your values are really matching their values, they could be the most impactful to you. So that was one of the things. It's like the more we create more of these individuals that are able to deliver the positive messages, the right tools and the tips that will allow everyone, after going through them and saying that I can, after believing that they cannot do these things, I think that is the biggest moment of happiness, in anybody's life, if you've taken, a small part of this journey for people.
I think this is something which is really great, and this is something which drives you as well, as you just told us.
Absolutely.
So, by the way, I have one thing that as now it's a Corona's time, everyone is talking about all over the world. Everyone is talking about Corona. Everything has been changed. So, how much Corona has affected your personal life and your business life? How it impacted your life?
Osama, I'm a traveler. So most of my time I'm in the plane. So I travel between 2 to 3 times, sometimes, in 1 week. And sometimes I have even international and long trips, to US, to other countries around the world. So when I talk about, impact and the lifestyle and the way things are, I definitely felt it really hard because of, not being able to be there the way I would have wanted. Like I canceled in the same week where the quarantine started. I had 3 trainings in 3 different countries I was planning to actually visit. So, but again,
Everything has been canceled because of that.
Exactly. I was actually committing to the training. I said, you know what? I'm not going to cancel anything. I'll just wait for the country to send us the message and say, you know what? We're locking down. And that's exactly what happened. I was planning to go to Tunisia probably 4 days before, they sorted that quarantine. So definitely it has impacted so many levels, the personal part, the work part and all of that. But the minute we actually realized it, I think all of us have went through a stage of denial. Everyone was like, few days, go back to life. No way that this is going to take.
Business will be back to normal, and it's
You know what? Yeah, my plans were still in place. I was still discussing stuff with people. Business was still being discussed as if we're going to go back to work in the next day. But then when, when it exceeded like 2 weeks, 3 weeks, now we got into more than, 2 months almost. Uh, I think after the second week, we started to realize we can't just wait. So we started to shift our operations virtually and online. And that's most of what I do is about designing programs for entrepreneurs and for investors. And we were in the process of shifting 3 programs that we were planning to kick off. All have been moved virtually. We have a very big event. So now that was supposed to be held in October. Now we're discussing the possibility of having a partial virtual and all of that. And me and my team, I think we started to develop a different relationship, virtually, because suddenly I'm no longer seeing them, no longer just going and knocking the door and talking to them or pulling them here. So I think the whole thing have been shifted. Don't see it all negative. I think we found a lot of positivity where, we've impacted and we've done more than what we should have been doing, actually. So going virtual will allow you to move faster within your decisions, because it's no longer about, a venue and a place and taking permissions and all of that. It's just, deciding to invite the people and really go for it. But we're hoping that, after going back, that we'll be able to maintain a bit of hybrid between the office and between the virtual part. But we definitely have changed a lot, and we've done so many things, during that time.
And it's not going to come back to normal early. It's going to take, like people are discussing that it will be Corona's time till end of 2020. So I think this is something which is really great, which you just mentioned, that you people are doing all the things, you started all the things virtually. And this is how everyone needs to adopt, because most of when it comes to businesses, they people are feeling depressed because their existing business models are not generating them money anymore. So what you suggest to the businesses who were doing well prior to Corona and now they are not generating money, should they tweak the business models according to the new changes, according to Corona, and they can survive and sustain in the market until and unless this thing is not over? What's your take on that?
Well, that's a very good question, Osama, because this is exactly what we've been trying to understand in the past period. And the reason we've done the webinars is to offer solutions, to offer tactics, strategies to all of the entrepreneurs that are going through the same boat. But as you mentioned, what we noticed that there is different types and segments of startups. There is few startups that were already in e-commerce. They were already digitized. Their profits were over the top. They are in a problem where they cannot fulfill demand. That's the problem. Everyone started to shift face. There's some of the startups, they say, I don't know how to do it. So for the ones that have done super great, like for example, the most needed one is mobile applications that delivers grocery. That was the first thing. When in times of crisis, what happens to the product? The only ones that definitely will continue are the ones that are dealing with specific and basic needs: food, medicine, and probably healthcare kind of stuff. These are the ones that still needed, and as well, the gaming, entertainment, all of these stuff are also parts that people can still use at home. So for the ones that are doing well, they actually started partnering. So, for example, I have a product, but I'm not able to deliver it. So who's of the logistics companies have already got permissions from governments, because all of that have come, with all of these obstacles. So we've seen a lot of strategic alliances that happened. And the ones that are not doing really well are the ones that were seeking other alternatives. So I'll give you an example. Yesterday, we were with a company, and what they do is they offer shared rides. Right. So basically, if I want to travel from city A to city B, there's someone who's going, I can just go with them. That definitely stopped. There's no way, because there's no traveling across cities.
People are not traveling.
So what he did, he looked into the market. What is the problem that exists today in the situation? The most needed one is delivery. Everyone is lacking the delivery. So he went right away, issued a permit. He already has, the permit of operating the business. He transferred it into delivery with particular cars. So now he provided these people with permits to work, and they're no longer losing, their income. The second thing, he's actually getting into a market that's empty. Not many people are able to do this. So he had the infrastructure, so he shifted. So the tweak is important. The way you do you have to look, where can I fit? once there's an entrepreneur who told me, you know what, I sell rice. How can I be in e-commerce? I basically produce them. I have a farm. This is what I do. And I said, people will still eat rice. You just need to find the channels that exist. And how can you really offer something with packages, with good prices? I'll most likely buy a bag of rice every week or every month, depending on that. Can you offer this periodically? And then when things goes back, you can go back. So definitely changing, tweaking, we call it pivoting. And above all, we call it resilience. If you're not, an entrepreneur should be resilient by nature, should see opportunities and match, into it. And that's what everybody did. Because
yeah, when there is a crisis,
exactly.
when there are new problems, every single problem is an opportunity for an entrepreneur. As you just mentioned, that the carpooling company started delivering groceries and all that because they have the existing infrastructure. I think this is a very good example, and the world need to copy this example. All the existing companies who are doing something, they can tweak a little and can play a part to curb and combat in this pandemic. So by the
And
way, when
again,
it comes
think
to the
of
normal people,
as well. What's going to happen afterwards? We always say, first, the first thing you need to save yourself from being cash deprived. So there is a need for you to sell. So whatever you're able to actually generate cash from, don't feel it's deviating from strategy. It's okay to deviate during time, so you don't really get rid of your employees, you don't shut down your business. So don't feel bad if you actually shifted off the road, but eventually we'll see how you can come back.
So by the way, as you just mentioned in like a few minutes back, that you are an avid traveler. So I'm running a travel and tourism company here in Pakistan, and I love to ask questions when it comes to travel related questions. That's what I love about. I also love traveling, so I'm going to ask you a lot of questions about traveling. So by the way,
Sure.
before going for that, yeah, because when it comes to right now, till now, people were discussing about entrepreneurs, but when it comes to the normal people, the
Yeah.
audience, the general audience, how they can still remain positive, because the people are also feeling depressed because it's a physical distance. They are still socially connected with the people through different mediums, but they cannot meet people physically, and they people are feeling depressed. Depression is increasing. So how they can combat that thing?
That's a very, I mean, it's a tough one, Osama, and I don't think there is an existing ideal answer for this. Otherwise people would
Yeah,
have
by
just
the way,
gone.
how like the way you told that you are doing, you started adopting according to the new things,
Yeah,
and people need to adopt. They need to. What do you think? They either need to. It's time to explore themselves. It's time
sure.
to get. It's time to improve their skills. What they
Sure.
should do?
I
How
mean,
they can utilize this time in a positive way?
I think there's each person has his own preferences. First of all, my first advice: don't try to match what everybody else is doing. If that person is doing studying and all of that, because that fulfills a purpose. Don't feel pressured that you have to be like everybody else, right? That is the first thing, because everyone, what happened during this crisis, that everyone felt, oh, now I'm home, I have to get in shape, I have to be fit, I have to study more, I have to work more, and it became more pressuring than even being outside, right? Which is very interesting
Yes,
how
it's true. Yeah.
people are becoming so hard on themselves, and don't be. I mean, this is the time that was actually imposed on the whole world, so don't feel that you have to be like everyone else. What I would say, we all have purposes in life, we all have things that drives us, as you mentioned earlier, Osama, and that actually maybe now is the time to get ourselves closer. For me, I do courses, I read more, because that delivers me closer to my purpose. The more I know, the more I connect with people like yourself, the more it makes me more aware of the globe, so I'm able in delivering more to the other segments. The second thing, like I would say, do the things that you always wanted to do and you were not able to do it. Like I had this wish all the time. I was like, I wish I have 1 month to organize my house and to put everything in the right place, right? I never had the time because I'm always traveling. I also said, I wish I could go back to the gym. It's been a while. So now I've been exercising for the past 40 days every day. So I'm finally back on
Wow.
track. I just needed that time to get me back on the rhythm. So that's my advice. I mean, don't feel that pressure. Use it for whatever fits you. If it is learning a new thing, learn a new skill. If it is connecting with people, there's nothing better than and easier than connecting with people now. I'm actually talking to a lot of people that I never thought I would be talking to in real life, like famous authors that I always wanted to connect with. Now I'm able to actually do that. So just make sure you connect with your values, with your purpose. If it's the time, if you have been away from your family and you happen to be with them now, so use that time to connect and build these relationships back. But always go back to what you believe in, and that's the thing I think that should
Yeah,
drive
I
your
think this is
capital.
something which is really, really important, that don't follow anyone blindly. Don't put pressure on yourself. And what you need to do is to look into yourself, that what you actually want in life, and do accordingly. I think that's gonna
Exactly.
make you happy as well. Yeah. Because at the end of the day,
Exactly.
what we all are chasing, we all are chasing happiness. And if something
Yes.
makes you happy, do that. Don't follow others.
Exactly.
By the way, you are an angel investor, for the startups,
Yeah.
for the entrepreneurs who are listening to this podcast. What is that thing which an angel investor look into the startups? Like, do you people look into an idea? What is that thing which matters the most? Like the idea matters the most, or the founders of the company matters? What is that thing?
So there's different, I mean, different ways, because when you talk about an angel, you talk about a person who invests his own money. So there is no one school of thought really about this. It's different than venture capital, which is more institutional, more kind of like global thematic type of thing where everybody follows. So angel investors are different types, but the ones that I actually follow and the people around me, we don't look for just an idea. I actually look for people. I never invested in an idea because it was a great idea. I always invested in people that I have seen multiple times, people that I have known over the time with their commitment, with their persistence, even though that they could have failed, they actually went back into it. Even the way they address the society. So when you ask about what did that person do, so they have a good reputation. So I did not put money in a single idea that I don't know about, honestly. I always connected with people, either through events or either through accelerator programs, and I was their mentor. Those are the ones that after a period of time I decided to actually put money into. But different angels follow different things. But remember, at the end of the day, there's two things that angel investors provide. They provide you with cash, but the biggest of all is they provide their network. So most of what we do for companies, we actually pick up the phone, call people that we know, and we ask them basically to meet these startups. You know what? I'm investing in this. Why don't you give them a meeting? They probably have something good for you. So offering network is worth giving, a lot to, more than the money, because
Yeah,
money will
because
not get you the connections.
when it comes to network, it's a very famous saying that your network is your net worth. And it's true that what you can do with your phone or what you can do with your network, you cannot do, even at some point in time, you cannot even achieve that thing physically. So I think your network is your net worth. It's something which
Absolutely. And
is, yeah, it's true. So, by the way, as you are an investor and you are involved into this entrepreneurial ecosystem from a long while, so how you would you suggest to the startups, like if someone wants to start fresh, they don't have any prior experience of entrepreneurship, they've never been into startup culture before, so how they can start? Because
mm,
people are afraid of fear of failure. How they can overcome that
yes.
fear of failure? How they can overcome fear of doing mistakes? What's your take on that?
I would love everyone to think, if you were ever afraid of anything in life, put aside the business. How did you get over it? By trying it. So
Yeah.
trying it on a small scale, and then you will realize, why do I say with a small scale? Because if it didn't work and you couldn't sleep at night and you were not feeling well, then this is not for everybody. So let's establish that entrepreneurship is hard. It is tough. It is time consuming and effort. And even the family will have to be, supportive at the beginning. And you have to deal with the fact that they may not support you. So you have to be ready for that. That it's a very lonely journey for a lot of people.
Yeah,
But
it's a
I
lonely
always,
journey and it's a journey on a bumpy road. Like it's not a journey on a highway. You're driving your
exactly,
startup and it's 24/7 job.
that's why you need to really work on something that you completely believe in, because with time People will punch you. People will tell you it's bad. You will not find customers. So you have to have that thick skin of a belief that, yes, this is a good problem to solve. So don't love your idea. That's my first advice to everyone. Don't put your love in the solution. Love the problem that you're solving and believe that there is a good market to it. So for any entrepreneur, you need to have a problem before the idea. Because if the problem is not big and good enough and painful enough, then you will not find, customers. Find a customer that has a pain that hasn't been solved, right? Even if it was a very small thing, that could be the thing that solves. Again, the famous one is like Careem and Uber. Why are they successful? Taxis existed long time ago, cars existed long time ago. But people never loved standing in the street, waving to the cars under the sun and all of that. They gave you an option that is much more easier and simpler. So if you can find something called a product and a market fit, they all come together, that is what you need to do. But I highly advise with experimenting. And maybe that's other episodes, Osama, of how to actually start small, with startups.
Yeah, because what you mentioned is the example you mentioned about Careem and Uber. They simply bridge, like taxis were existing in the market, the customers were existing. They simply build a platform which can connect the problem with the solution. So this is how the people are generating huge number of revenues and all that. Yeah.
Exactly. And Osama, you said it rightly. So the problem was more important. The app was only the channel. So the app never got the billions that Uber and Careem have got. It's not the app. It's the fact that they found a good channel that connects the problem with the customer. And the app is only a tool. It's never the solution. And people don't invest in apps. They invest in ideas and people. So that's how it should be thought of.
And you also mentioned that never fell in love with your solution. Fell in love with the problem you're solving. Focus more on the problem, and that's going to make you stick more to the reality of your product, and you will be that's going to help you stick to the core values of your company. And you will be able to it's Corona's time, as well as we can also think according to this time. Like, we have different problems. There are different companies who are solving different problems. If they are in love with their solution, they will never be able to tweak that. They will never be able to pivot their ideas. So I think this is something which is really, really important for the entrepreneurs to understand.
Absolutely.
By the way, what is the current situation of Corona when it comes to COVID over there in Saudi, and what precautionary measures government has told to the people to curb and combat this pandemic?
Yeah, I mean, we were really lucky in Saudi Arabia because they started the measures of quarantine very early. And they took all of these measures of stopping airlines, doing that partial kind of quarantine where people stayed at home and minimizing the contact as soon as possible. And maybe that actually helped. Saudi Arabia is pretty huge and it has a population of over 30 million people. But the numbers so far, is about, the latest number actually up until today, I think we reached the 29 or 30,000, if I'm not mistaken, of cases. But there is the ones that have been actually recovered and all of that. But the good part is that there was a great infrastructure of healthcare. So it was able to actually receive all of the people that actually got infected. And at the same time that the healthcare system have reacted super fast, and the government have enabled them really, really well with financials and all of that to be able to serve everyone. There is drastic measures that have taken in some of the areas with high infected numbers, and some people were actually reallocated. And the ones that came from travel were actually placed in hotels and an obligatory quarantine for 14 days. So there is no one who came from outside went back home. All the hotels were transferred into rooms.
Into quarantine centers, and whoever is coming from abroad, they have to quarantine for 14 days first prior to going back to their home. Wow, that's something which is really great. I think in Pakistan, in our country, the government is also doing the same thing. So by the way, when it's a complete lockdown or it's a partial lockdown over there?
Well, it was a complete lockdown at a certain part, but in Ramadan it was from actually 8 o'clock in the morning, 10 o'clock in the morning until 5 o'clock p.m. You're able to go out for necessity stuff, of course, like groceries, pharmacies, and all of that, and then it goes back into lockdown. But you're highly advised not to, not to go out unless it's really necessary. So there's a lot of people that really don't go out at these times, and after that, you need to have a permission. So if there is an urgency, there's a website where you can apply for a permit if you're needed. The only ones that has the permits are like medical staff or delivery personnel. They all have permits to actually operate and move around the kingdom.
So I think, by the way, there is one more important thing which I want to ask you, that when it comes to complete lockdowns, there are people
Yes.
who are the daily wagers, there are people who are the most vulnerable during this crisis. So either the government is helping them to survive during this crisis, what's happening, or the private organizations are working at their end.
Both of them are actually collaborating. We have government and private sectors collaborating to serve this. So I'll give you a small example, like one of the private and government entities, they came together towards creating packages for, it's like a survival package, but all for Ramadan supplies and stuff. So there are certain areas that are in need more than others. So they identified the number of houses and the people that live inside, and this was actually distributed to them. There's also numbers and applications that were created. So even if you're in a state of fear, let's say you have anxiety and all of that, so there is app called Saha, which is it means health. It was by the ministry and managed by a private company, by a startup. And what they do is any kind of consultation that you actually need, if you're an elderly, if you're someone who has a chronic disease and all of that, there is like an emergency number that you can call and you can speak to a doctor. And if your case actually is in need of something, they would send you a staff or a personnel that could come to the house and provide service. So that is one of the things. And there is also some of the areas that where some people or expats who even the labor that were working, in Saudi Arabia, and they stopped the work because of all of the situations, they were moved into better facilities, because if they're all sitting at the same time with
By
big
the
number,
government,
sorry,
the people have been. This all is being done by the government.
yes,
Yeah, because when it comes to the laborers and the daily wages, I think they are the most vulnerable during this crisis. They cannot survive because until and unless they are not going to work, they are not going to generate revenues or what I'm going to say, food for their family.
absolutely.
So I think this is something great if your government is doing this. Yeah.
Yes, so they actually moved into, like, there is some think of buildings that are not occupied, like schools and like all of these big buildings that were not occupied were rented, and then they placed them there, and they put them in like rooms, and they were furnished, and they provide them with food and all of these stuff. So that was done right away, and it's actually, think of it, one from a humanitarian point of view, and the other one is basically to stop also the corona infection, because you need to keep the distance and the social distancing, all the time. So that was also done over here. And we expect that hopefully that this will, contribute to the fact that people will not really be infected, during these times. So, I mean,
Yeah.
every measure is needed at this stage, right? And definitely there's more segments that appears every now and then. But the good thing that the voices are heard. So people are becoming, more vocal. People talk about it. Like if there's anyone in need, someone would post something online and they would mention some of the officials, this is a segment that needs help, and then they would react to it.
Yeah. By the way, one thing which I want to mention, that we need to appreciate each and everything our governments are doing, because this
Yeah.
is something which is new and we people were not prepared. Even the whole world was not prepared for this kind of crisis or this kind of pandemic. So by the way, now we are going for my favorite session, which is travel and tourism. I'm gonna ask you a few questions regarding that. So when you actually started traveling abroad, and when you started traveling, and yeah, how you fell in love with traveling, by the way.
I mean, that's an interesting question, and I wouldn't
And by the way,
recall
you
because
first time you traveled was for business or for just for the sake of fun?
You'll be surprised. I don't travel a lot for fun, unfortunately. I don't really do a lot of fun travels, but maybe that's one of the things that I should start doing. But I have a certain style in traveling. So when I travel for work, I try as much as possible to like allocate, that I finish work at 5 or 6 o'clock. So I have at least the night to go sightseeing and exploration, in the place, meet people. And I try to connect with the locals, of course, because one night with the locals, you will know all the right places, all the right restaurants, and in a nice way. But if I had the luxury of time, I would actually add an extra day, so I can see the city, during the day. But you will be surprised. I don't really travel really a lot for fun, but I enjoy traveling and meeting entrepreneurs in these cities. So no matter where was that place, I really like to meet entrepreneurs or students in universities. So there is a trip that I actually was lucky to be selected to go in to Mozambique, Maputo. And that was probably 6 or 7 years ago. And I was privileged to deliver a session for school students. And unfortunately, we don't speak the same language, So I delivered it in English, but we had a translator. And at the end, the comments that I heard was really amazing. It was one of the most beautiful things. It's like, when are you going to come back? And next time we promise you will speak English so we would understand directly, what you're saying. But I travel to know cultures. More than seeing places. I travel to get to know people.
So you love to meet, it means you love to meet new people and you enjoy the cultural values wherever you go.
I do.
So by the way, do you also travel whenever you are traveling, do you love exploring the food, the local food?
Of course. That's the first thing. Yeah. So my last trip, let me tell you, my last trip to a country for the first time was to Azerbaijan, Baku.
Okay.
And I was actually invited to deliver a session. I'm part of a training program for Stanford. So I'm a facilitator. So I went there to do like a few hours session. And the first thing I said, food, guys, what is the best place? And I was only staying for a couple of nights. So food, people, and preferably if we had time to explore some cultural places over there. Stories, I enjoy hearing stories about ancient things, if there is any mythical stories, especially when people take in that place. I do love these stuff a lot, and no one tells it better but the
because that's the only way you can enjoy like local. If you're going somewhere and you want to enjoy like a local, you have to mix up with the people. You have to enjoy the local food. Yeah, that's how you can enjoy like local. By the way, anywhere back in your head, go ahead.
Yeah, the music. If there is time to actually hear some, music, the local music in a nice place, where people play or sing or all of that, I would definitely do this.
By the way, what is which city you have visited before and you want to visit that city again? And you also recommend others to visit that city? Yeah. What's your favorite city?
Oh, that's it. I don't know. Any destination is a good place, to visit. There's a place I visit all the time, but there's a reason why I do that. It's because, I actually live very nearby, and it's the place where I studied. So I'm always in Dubai, always. And I have special connections made with the city because I got my master's there. I started my first company there, and I think there was a lot of self-exploration, when I actually went there for a few years. So there is a special emotional connection, if I may say. But I wouldn't say a specific city or country. It's an area. I enjoy Africa a lot because I see, like South Africa, looking forward to explore more on the sub-Saharan as well. I've done most of North Africa. I think there is magic, about this this continent that I'm always ready to explore. I'm like counting the countries, that I go to. But unfortunately, see, Textte, if you have a solution for the language, that would be great. Something that we're not understanding everyone.
Inshallah, we are gonna take this into we will consider this, and we
Yeah,
are gonna add this somewhere in Texte. By the way, there is a thing that's it's somewhere back in your head. Like, do you ever want to visit Pakistan? Like,
I would love to.
or have you ever visited?
Unfortunately not. Maybe you'll connect me with some training, opportunity in universities. Would love to come and visit, or an accelerator. But I do know a lot of people from Pakistan. So I trained many startups from Pakistan in Startup Istanbul, because we used to have startups that come and participate in the event. So there is a lot of good companies and startups that come from Pakistan, good technologies that they're working actually on. So would be definitely my pleasure. Normally we get invited, places.
We wholeheartedly welcome you to Pakistan on behalf of Texte. And whenever you will be here, we will love to show you around. Because it's
Wonderful.
a beautiful country. Because
I'm
we
sure.
have now the entrepreneurs. I think that one thing which you love about is the entrepreneurial ecosystem, and it's really growing over here in Pakistan. And you will love to meet startups. There are different kind of startups which are working in different accelerators and incubators over here. By the way, at the end, thank you so much for sparing out time for this podcast, and it's a pleasure talking to you. Thank you
Thank you
so
so
much.
much. Really appreciate the invitation, and we look forward to visiting Pakistan and to actually meeting
You're more than
people,
welcome.
tasting the food, going to places, and of course meeting entrepreneurs, and seeing how we can actually build great connections with them. So thank you so much, Osama, for the opportunity.
Inshallah, we are going to have a long-term connection. Goodbye. Goodbye.
Wonderful.
Thank you so much. Thank
Bye.
you. Yes.